own. But we are very pleased to introduce Ilia Dohel, who has kindly stepped in at short notice to deliver her keynote on her behalf. Ilia Dohel is Media Freedom, Media Development Specialist, currently serving as a consultant for UNESCO's International Program for the Development of Communication. He previously worked as a researcher at the Office of the OSCE, representative on the freedom of the media, focusing on legal barriers to free speech and access to information across Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Caucasus. Ilia has also served as a communications expert at UNESCO and in the private sector. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ilia, and thank you so much that you're here today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, the Austrian Commission for UNESCO, for organizing this vital discussion. This is a further sign of Austria's dedication to media freedom, and yet another sign of its support for free, independent, and pluralistic media and journalists. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today. One could say that independent media today are caught in a perfect storm, where political, legal, and economic factors converge and amplify one another, leaving independent media struggling to stay afloat amid turbulent conditions. Earlier this month, the UNESCO General Conference in Samarkand, the member states heard the key findings of the latest global edition of UNESCO's World Trends Report in Freedom of Expression and Media Development. Its analysis confirms that there are key concerning trends that we will address here today in my presentation. The full report will be launched in the coming weeks. You're pleased to familiarize yourself with it. But I'm glad to take this opportunity to share some highlights relevant for today's discussion. Political problem is the main issue that we'll be looking at today. Threats to independent media and shrinking space for freedom of expression should be understood within the broader context of democratic decline and discrediting of democratic institutions in many countries. Democracies are now outnumbered for the first time in 20 years. With the rise of authoritarian tendencies, we have also seen significant declines in freedom of expression around the world. The Varieties of Democracy's Freedom of Expression Index has dropped 10% since 2012. In the previous report, it was registered that 85% of the world's population experienced a decline in press freedom over the period of 5 years. Government's control over the media has tightened, often portraying journalists as foreign agents, enemies, or purveyors of fake news. In this context, it is perhaps not surprising that media self-censorship is estimated to have increased by 63% since 2012, averaging a nearly 5% increase every year. This has had a clear impact on trust. The Edelman Trust Barometer 2025, which covers 25 countries, reported that 7 out of 10 people believe that journalists, along with government officials and business leaders, deliberately mislead the public. We have also seen continuous threats to journalist safety, unfortunately. According to the 2024 report by UNESCO Director General on the safety of journalists and the danger of impunity, 1 journalist was killed every 4 days in the years of 2022 and 23. So 1 journalist was killed every 4 days. That's a 38% increase from the previous 2 years. The impunity rate for perpetrators for crimes against journalists remains unacceptably high at 85%. That means that only 15% of crimes against journalists and media are properly investigated and prosecuted. This is in addition to innumerable other threats facing journalists that we will look into, ranging from attacks and intimidation to kidnappings and forced disappearance and arbitrary detention. plus digital safety concerns such as online abuse, doxing, smear campaigns, especially against women journalists. The legal problem, legal persecution. In recent years, a number of legislatures, especially those dominated by a single party, have passed laws to tighten freedom of expression and press freedom. There have also been countless cases of legal systems being weaponized to silence dissent and shield public officials from oversight, under the pretense of addressing national security, terrorism, disinformation, or hate speech. Among the UNESCO member states, as of the year of 2021, 160 states still had criminal defamation legislation on their books, which is a continued threat of penalties and inhibits press freedom. Legal harassment, including multi-million-dollar lawsuits for defamation, is also a persistent challenge. That is something that is called a SLAPS, strategic lawsuits against public participation, a real slap to press freedom. They are brought by powerful actors to intimidate critical voices. For instance, in Europe, 166 SLAP cases were initiated in the year of 23 alone. The Intergovernmental Council of the UNESCO's IPDC has worked to address these challenges, especially with crucial leadership from member states like Austria in working towards a safer environment for journalists around the world and addressing the more subtle, pernicious tactics to silence independent voices like SLAPS. Bringing international attention to these challenges and calling for strong responses where necessary, policy reform, is absolutely vital. So thank you, Austria, and thanks especially for organizing the working group to support safety of journalists. Let's look at the next slide, and we see that at the same time, newsrooms around the world have one challenge in common, and that's what Claudia referred to already, the economic problem. In 2021, the Windhoek Plus 30 Declaration recognized the economic crisis facing newsroom as an existential threat, and unfortunately, it has only worsened over the last several years. Yes, more information is available now at our fingertips than ever before, particularly through digital platforms and generative AI summaries of online searches. But at the same time, as the journalist among you know very well, it took a lot of resources to produce that information, particularly when we talk about reliable, fact-checked information from a professional journalistic source. The revenue models that traditionally supported this work are being dismantled by the huge shifts in today's information environment. What we see is three big tech companies, especially Google, Meta, and Amazon, now capture more than half of the global advertising market. To be precise, 51% of the market belongs to these huge actors. And at the same time, inevitably, ad revenue to newsrooms is plummeting. Audiences have shifted online, and under-resourced media outlets struggle to keep up. While digital revenues are growing for those able to tap into it, it's not enough to offset losses from a significant decline in print. Digital platforms and algorithms now dictate visibility, often rewarding sensationalism over substance. Independent, trustworthy voices are not only competing for audience attention in crowded online spaces, they're also fighting to be heard over mis- and disinformation. This problem has further been impacted by the rise of artificial intelligence, which, though offering potential assistance through new tools and the streaming of basic tasks, freely draws from content produced by professional journalists, while limiting traffic to their sites, and thereby cuts off a key source of revenue for journalists and traditional media. This year, the economic indicator of RSF's World Press Freedom Index fell to its lowest level ever recorded. According to their survey, media outlets in 160 out of 180 countries assessed, that is 89%, achieved financial stability with difficulty or not at all. This in turn threatens outlets' editorial independence and their ability to keep the lights on, much less hold power to account, cover critical local news beats, or issue impacting minority communities, or issues impacting minority communities, for example, communities with disabilities or climate coverage. Adding insult to injury, just as we've called for more support for independent media in these challenging times, shifting international priorities have instead resulted in declining funds to this critical space. Even before this year's shifts and adjustments, support for independent media was minimal. According to OECD analysis for the years 2016-2022, only 0.5% of official development assistance went to media and information environment, and that includes infrastructural and ICT projects. When we exclude infrastructure-related support, this number shrinks to less of 0.25%. We all know this doom and gloom picture all too well, and recognizing that problem, I trust, is at least in part what has brought you all here today. So instead, I'd like to focus on where there's hope. UNESCO and partners around the world are working urgently to meet these challenges, sharing knowledge and experiences, and coordinating on next steps and pathways to success at outlet, policy, and global levels. I invite you now to watch the short video.
Information and accountability. On World Press Freedom Day in 2021, the Windhoek Plus 30 Declaration proclaimed information as a public good to which everyone is entitled.
Endorsed by UNESCO member states, the declaration highlights the urgent need to address the economic viability of journalism.
The challenges are monumental.
UNESCO suggests that countries set up national task forces that bring together news outlets, policymakers, and advertisers to find national solutions.
For example, a task team can assess regulation to compel revenue sharing by internet companies, as has occurred in Australia.
Necessary actions should be taken to ensure support of the media does not interfere with its independence.
Task teams can encourage government to set up independent systems for subsidies, as well as specialized funds for digital news startups.
In total, the aim should be to build back better, to not only secure current media from existential threat, but stimulate growth in the sector as well.
This means that a task force should work to ensure there are news services for everyone, especially for people excluded by language, poverty, or location.
By helping independent news survive and thrive, we as citizens will invest in a future where we can make decisions informed by sustainable news.
The time is now to set up national task forces on media viability, before it's too late.
Thank you, Ilia.
Information.
If we move into the next slide, let's work toward a solution to the media viability crisis. In 2021, UNESCO's 193 member states made history by unanimously endorsing the principles of the Windhoek Plus 30 Declaration, which recognizes information as a public good. Independent public interest media is also a prerequisite for informational integrity. It is therefore our collective responsibility to protect it. What's more, addressing the complexity of the challenges that face us will require multi-stakeholder approaches. At the international level, for instance, IPDC's Intergovernmental Council provides a unique and important platform for this, as do member state coalitions such as the Media Freedom Coalition and the Group of Friends on the Safety of Journalists, such as the one at UNESCO chaired by Austria. OSCE Development Assistance Committee issued a report in March 2024 and approved the principles as an important acknowledgement of the urgent need for greater, more effective and locally led support to independent media and the information environment. In November 24, the Intergovernmental Council of the IPDC recommended that all member states take them into consideration in reviewing and implementing their own policies. Significantly, this includes increasing official development assistance support for public interest media and the information space. Recent shifts in international priorities, however, have not been promising signs for increasing those numbers in the current climate. We must continue to strengthen our push for support to the sector through coordinated action, such as through the civil society-led M20 initiative ahead of the G20 discussions in South Africa, which sought to shine a light on the challenges facing independent media and propose concrete recommendations. At the same time, realistically, we must prepare for all eventualities. This requires taking a whole-of-system perspective, seeking out innovative solutions at outlet and national levels, and identifying and engaging champions and supporters across political aisles, sectors, and borders. Recognizing this, UNESCO joined 12 other media support organizations in the collaborative development of the Media Viability Manifesto. UNESCO Dohel Academy, International Media Support, Global Forum for Media Development, and other organizations. And this process was also informed by public consultations at a global survey, together gathering input from at least 86 organizations from 55 countries. The theory of change for media viability of the manifesto outlines 4 primary terrains of work: business and technical support, coalitions and partnership, evidence-based advocacy, and research and insights. In the process of mapping out that theory of change, the manifesto also maps actors, stakeholders, and a wide range of current approaches to the viability problem, all of which I encourage you to consider. The coalition of organizations engaged in this initiative has grown and identified 3 primary areas for current and ongoing joint efforts moving forward. These areas are the following: shared evidence and research bases. It aims to identify available research and evidence, particularly quantitative, to bolster the argument for supporting independent public interest media. For instance, the economic return of the Panama Papers investigation has led, 9 years later, to a national tax agencies having been able to recover $1.86 billion. Joint advocacy. Informed discussions ahead of 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Sevilla earlier this year, which resulted in the Sevilla commitment and recognition of journalism's role in combating illicit financial flows, the M20 initiative ahead of the G20 summit in South Africa, and this task force is now particularly focused on strengthening media support within the European Union's multi-annual financial framework that is under negotiation. Private sector resource mobilization. Identifying innovative new areas for revenue and support. Recognizing that public sector resource mobilization is critical and already a much larger discussion, and all of this work hand in hand. The groups together, and as part of larger collaborative efforts, like OSCE Principles for Relevant and Effective Support, I encourage you to check out the manifesto itself and ongoing work on mediumviabilitymanifesto.org. That said, much of what I've just mentioned is looking at the medium and long-term impacts, building the base of support support for this vital sector. But what can we do in the immediate and short term? At the national level, as Nobel laureate economist Joseph Stiglitz has said on several occasions, independent public interest media is a public good and therefore requires public support. That must mean both domestically and in international commitments, such as through ODA. At the global level, policymakers and support organizations should see the voluntary principles, as I mentioned, and take them into consideration. It is also vital to recognize independent media as a key stakeholder in accomplishing other development goals and continue raising that flag as you in engaging processes like the FFD4 World Summit on the Information Society and G20 and toward the achievement of the SDGs. Domestically, establish multi-stakeholder national commissions or task forces to identify the unique challenges and potential solutions to the media viability crisis in your given context. Hosting conversations like this is an excellent start. Policymakers can also support public interest media at home through national journalism funds, tax credits, and subsidies. Avoid cutting the operating budgets of independent public broadcasters. Ensure government advertising is independently and transparently allocated, and ensure that competition and platform policies can help offset the challenges currently facing independent media in the digital space. This should be informed by and in alignment with UNESCO's guidelines for the governance of digital platforms. It is absolutely critical that any such measures meet three conditions: include explicit safeguards for the editorial independence, are implemented transparently, and with input from media actors, experts, and other stakeholders. At the individual and outlet level, knowledge exchange opportunities, including at conferences and gatherings like this one, are critical. See the example in the Media Viability Manifesto, as I mentioned, and in resources like UNESCO's Building Back Better handbook for innovative solutions at the outlet level. We will also soon be publishing a new practical resource on media viability and entrepreneurship for new startups, particularly for women-led newsrooms, given the unique additional challenges women journalists frequently face. Foundational recommendations and steps that are applicable to all, such as build a very well-rounded team, including financial and tech experts. According to recent research from Project Oasis, for instance, journalism entrepreneurs who employ sales and business development staff earn 4 to 6 times more annual revenue than those who rely only on founders for fundraising. Have defined and transparent policies on if and how you use artificial intelligence tools in your work. There are many available examples of responsible use in the newsroom. Diversify your revenue sources, as we all know, but without overstretching yourself, taking into account the size, capacity, and resources and skills of a media organization. For instance, in the Philippines, Puma Podcast created a podcast storytelling production studio to bring in funding from content services. As a result, they went from a business model based on 80% of grants and 20% of content services in 2020 to earning 70% of their revenue from services and only 30% from grants. In many cases, especially in fragile or developing contexts, grants will remain a necessary part of this equation. IPDC, for instance, has provided seed funding to numerous viability-related projects around the world, ranging from international studies and regulatory frameworks and public policies for official advertising, to building outlets' capacities on business development, fundraising, and analytics. So while the trends identified in the World Trends Report are indeed concerning, and as you all no doubt have experienced on a daily basis yourselves, now more than ever we must look into this wide array of responses and potential solutions and share experiences and insights through fora such as this one. All of us here and all of UNESCO member states have recognized information as a public good. We must work together to ensure that journalists and outlets across the country and the world are able to fulfill their crucial mission. Thank you very much.